welcome to Love You Bro podcast. I am your host, Jude Davella. Today I'm with my baby brother, Jamie.
What to do?
And man, we got a special guest to bring in the house today, man. A longtime friend. I want to call him, he's family now. We know each other that long, but we want to welcome Jayhawk great Calvin Thompson to the set.
Thanks,
Cal. What's up, my man? How you doing, bro? You good?
What's up,
Cal? Good to have you on the set tonight, man. We appreciate you coming on. This is something my brother and I have been working on for a long time, and really just want to get out and talk and cut it up with all the people we know, man, in the sports industry.
I'm glad you reached out, and I'm glad I remembered in a timely manner to get here because I was carless earlier.
We had all that taken care of. But Cal, I think, man, Jamie and I probably just want to jump in. You know, being lifelong diehard Jayhawk fans. You know, you came out of Wyandotte High School back in the day, and you played for Ted Owens when you came out, correct?
It was last year, right?
Was Ted your last year?
It was funny, yeah. Coach Owens, in fact, I'm going to go back to 1979 when he first started recruiting me.
Okay.
And I tell everyone, he came to our house, and he told my parents, he said, I don't want Calvin for 4 years. I want Calvin to be a Jayhawk for life.
Wow.
And so fast forward to the Round Ball Classic.
Right.
Brian Haney asked me to thank the crowd for coming out like we do every year. I was one of the coaches, and Barbara Thompson now was one of the assistants. She also played for Coach Washington when we were in school. And as I was thanking the crowd, I was like, there's nothing like Jayhawk Nation. There's nothing like Jayhawk Nation. You guys are the greatest. And I was like, as a ninth grader, Coach Owens was recruiting me. He told me, you know, he didn't want me for 4 years. He wanted me to be a Jayhawk for life. And then I turned around and looked at the other side of the gym, and I dropped to a knee, and I told Barbara, I was like, Barbara, I want you for life. And that's how I proposed to her.
Oh, man, that's awesome. How
That's
cool is that?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So that was, you know how I am with numbers, that was day 55.
Day 55.
Because my number was 35, hers was 20. And if you can add, that's 55. And so, I mean, it's amazing. And, you know, we made it official to start hanging out on 420.
Okay.
I mean, these numbers just keep falling in place for
You're
us.
a numbers guy then.
Oh, yeah. And I said, we have
play
to
some
start.
baccarat or something.
So I said, we have to start playing the lottery. And then I told her I didn't want to go 100 days. So on the 99th day, we got married at the Monarch Stadium in the owner's suite.
Oh, that's
amazing.
Cool, Cal. Congratulations, man. That's cool.
Congratulations.
That's awesome, man. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. I just got married recently in October.
No,
so.
I know, and congrats to you. I didn't mean to go there to get off the Christmas, man. But no, it's nothing like, you know, being a Jayhawk. I mean, it's, you know, we have friends from all over in different, you know, North Carolina, Oklahoma, you know, Duke. They say it's nothing like Jayhawk Nation.
So when you were getting recruited, was like MU in the mix, or were there other Big 8 schools, or were you just going to be a Jayhawk from the get-go?
I had committed as a ninth grader.
Oh, wow.
And see, back then we were in junior high. And so I was recruited by over 350 schools. Wow. And when I got to Wyandotte, my principal, who we just talked about, I helped take care of till we buried him last year, he made me understand what it meant to be a teammate. Because he said, listen, I know you want to be a Jayhawk. He said, but we have a pretty good team, and all these colleges are coming to see you. He said, if you deny your commitment to KU publicly, then these other guys can go to college. They can get seen with the college coaches coming to see you. They can see them. And we had 3 D1 players on our team.
Oh, wow, that's
amazing.
amazing.
We were top 10 in the nation.
Sure.
And so Coach Owens, you know, he came in. He and JoJo White used to come to the house all the time as a ninth grader. And,
yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, the rest is history.
Yeah.
He told my daughter once he started hanging out with Taylor, oh, your dad was so good, he got me fired. So his last year was...
Yeah. And it wasn't a successful year for you guys your freshman year. And then so when Larry was coming in, did you know anything about him, like personally, or were you like...
Come on, Cal.
See, I I picked up a ball to go to college. I wanted to be the first in my family to go to college. So
Yes,
I
sir.
wasn't about pro sports or anything.
Sure.
So I did not know who Larry Brown was.
That's amazing.
So he knew who I was coming into KU.
Right.
Sure.
So I'll never forget our first meeting, introducing a new coach his first words was, "Where's that big mouth freshman in here running things?" And, I'm, 18-year-old, I'm like,
He ain't talking about me, is he?
I'm looking around and, I'm the jokester. And I'm like, and they said, "Who's the big mouth freshman?" I said, "I guess that would be me." And who might you be?
And who might you be, Larry Brown?
Right. And then they start laughing, and he didn't take too kindly to
God,
that.
that's amazing,
Because,
guy.
I didn't know who he
Sure.
was, but he came at me like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you look back, if you're a huge Jayhawk fan and had the end, we struggled with Coach
Right.
until I want to say it was the Iowa State game. We got beat at Iowa State my junior year, and he told me, Ronnie, and Danny to transfer, and this and that. A lot went on, and we like, "Ronnie, why are you crying?" He want us to try. I'm Kansas. I'm not going anywhere. I said, "Danny ain't going anywhere." So Ronnie's like, "Well, what about me?" And so we called a team meeting, and again, who are you?
Right.
No, we need to settle this.
Sure.
Because we were going to be good after my freshman year, but the dislike from the AD and Coach Owens, he had to get rid of him because it would have been tough to get rid of him when
Sure.
we got Greg Dryling being eligible, Carl Henry
Yeah.
being eligible. We're going to be good.
Right.
We started
Right.
3 freshmen.
Yeah.
So to put them back in the mix, he had to get rid of Coach Owens
Right.
then.
I mean, you talk. Sorry to interrupt you, but you talk about Kansas in this here. Calvin talked just for a few minutes, and he mentions names like Larry Brown, names like JoJo White coming to his house. Like, well, those are legends. I mean, we diehard Jayhawk fans our whole life, but legends.
I mean, it's it's one of the. It's obviously you were a big part of it, and that's squad you guys had when you guys went to the Final Four, right?
Yeah,
You
Final
guys,
Four my senior year.
Now,
86.
was that the year you broke out the Reds?
yes,
Yes.
86.
Yes.
That was.
I appreciate that. I'm still in therapy.
Well, because I remember that, and I remember once again, my dad was obviously he's 93 now, but he was going to football games when Wilt was passing out programs at the
Yeah, he said
football
Wilt
game.
was passing out programs at the football game.
football
He
game.
used to do it all. He used to do it all.
And so that's how long we've been. And so that was just but I remember Pops being like, "Why are they wearing Reds for? They didn't. Why are they wearing Reds
Yeah,
for?"
Coach wanted to do things his way, and I'd say to this day, regardless how I felt about him back then, as a man-to-man, he is the best X's and O's coach out there.
Wow.
And they've and I
That says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and
That says a
he's
lot.
well respected. He's obviously done a lot of successful things in college and the NBA. He's not everyone's cup of tea personality wise.
Exactly, and that's what I said. He was an asshole,
Yeah,
but he's a great coach.
sure.
Right.
And I understand where he was coming from as an adult,
Sure.
but as a 17, 18-year-old,
Sure.
it rubbed me the wrong way because I'm big on respect.
Right.
And I've always been that way from day one.
Right.
And so we felt disrespected when he came in there treating it. He's like, the first thing was, who's the big mouth freshman? The second thing was, we're going to be really good when my kids get here.
Yeah.
Now this is
Again.
Wow.
I say I get it now, but I didn't get it then.
Yeah.
Because I ran a youth program for almost 30 years.
Right.
I recruit the kids who I want to play for me.
Right.
So I get what he was
Right.
saying. But when you're in the mix, then you know.
No, and do you think he had to adjust I met him a few times just being up at KU and being close with Morningstar and Coach Bouchard. So I got to go to some practice up there and kind of be around Coach Self, which is he's awesome, obviously. And he was around practices and he was and he wasn't aiding, but he was doing something, I don't know if it was 16 or 17, something like that, but he was kind of around the program. And do you think he kind of had to adjust his philosophy? Because he had AI and AI was John Thompson and no one could, it was John Thompson. He loved him like a son. It was like, and it kind of, but he got the most, I think, of AI, and AI probably played his most disciplined ball in a structured system under Coach Brown in his career.
No, he like I said, he knows his craft. He's one of the best of the best. And you talk about AI. When I first quit playing in '95, and I used to go on the road following D Manning and Coach, and Coach had AI in Minnesota, and he said, "Oh, Calvin, do me a favor." I was like, "What?" He said, "Alan's at the hotel. Go talk to him for me."
This is amazing. This is
like, he could explain to him how I am and how you got through it, because he was on him just as hard as he was on me.
Of course.
And as soon as I went to, he said, "How in the hell you deal with this?" And I said, "Just hear what he's saying,
Right.
and take it for what it's worth."
Sure.
I said, he knows the game, but
good
people
stuff.
don't understand that. You
Right.
know that you're talking about practice. Coach would always say, "Go rest up." And then you go and get in the meeting and blast him about not practicing. You told him not to practice.
Right. Right.
Well, people don't understand that if they're not involved. But it's a business.
Sure.
Right.
It's a business. But no, Coach Brown, like I said, regardless how we felt personally initially, as far as X's and O's, he's the best out there.
So, and when you, sorry, Jim, when you, just stick on that for a second. So obviously you weren't a big fan personally who he was. So how long did it click to figure out this man knows his X's and O's? Like,
it was the Kentucky game.
okay. Is that when you went 150?
No, that remember, I'm old. That was after me.
That was after.
No,
that was after Cal.
this was when we played Kentucky, his second year, and we were down double digits with less than 2 minutes to go, and we was doing the Hacker Shack before Hacker Shack.
Oh wow!
And so we would score timeout, and we came all the way back and barely lost. And that's when we was like, we got something here. And that's when we start believing in him. And that's when he started believing in us.
Sure.
Because he was, like I said, he was all geared on, wait till my kids get here.
Right.
So he was trying to figure us out. Coach Owens recruited us. He recruited Greg Dreiling, Kellogg, Jeff Gill, and Kerry Boagny, and myself. And we weren't coaches' kids.
So when Larry got here, did he come from the NBA when he came here?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I was curious.
And that's what, and he didn't allow everybody to talk.
Right.
Only the captain could talk. So back in the media,
Oh man.
back in the day, it was Calvin and Coach had a problem. No, Kelly and I have a problem. Kelly have to come to me. I have to go to Coach, since I was the captain.
So Coach Brown only allowed the captain to talk to him.
Wow.
Okay. That's old school, man. That's old school, though. That's the way it was back in those days, man.
And so if you had a problem,
Yeah.
you come to me, I go to Coach. So it always seemed like it was me and Coach bumping heads.
Sure.
But think about that, though. Back in the day when you're doing that, I mean, it's like that in a lot of offices, man. They don't let us every person in the office
Exactly.
come and talk to them.
Exactly.
They say,
Very true.
you got a problem, go to your person that's the head of your division. So Coach Brown was like, go to your captain. I don't want to hear from 12, 13 dudes.
No,
I want to hear from one
that's
dude
what I
with the
said.
problems.
I can
Business.
get all that now.
Yeah,
I
right.
can, but at
the time.
17, 18-year-old, it was tough.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Jamie, I want to go back a little bit with Cal. I'm not sure if you remember this because you're 5 years younger than I am. But back in high school, so I started at Rockerson with Deshaun Mission East, right? So my brother Victor's your age, 82, Sean Mission East. But I remember a couple big games at Sean Mission East that were bigger than they had ever been.
I remember when
one of-
Danny came
right,
through.
that was 85. But I'm talking about when these guys came in 82 and it was him and David Johnson. Do you remember coming to Sean Mission East?
Yeah.
Jamie, it was wall to wall. I mean, people sitting on the standing room only. That was when East had Ken Glazer.
Brian Brown.
Yeah. Brian Brown, so Brown and Glazer and those guys. And they played Calvin and
How many you hang up that night? 40?
David Johnson.
Wow.
I don't know this.
See, people don't understand. Oh, you only averaged 22 in high school. I only played 2.5 quarters.
I was just saying that they took it to East pretty good that day. But it was cool though back in that time in '82 to walk into Sean Mission East gym and see these guys walk in because they look like a college team. That's how much talent they had on that squad.
Yeah,
They were like a college squad.
I remember when Danny came through, I was
85.
being looking, and he dunked. And I don't think anyone dunked at Lawrence, not on the ladder. They didn't have no athletes like that, but they didn't. I mean, I remember he dunked.
Yeah, because after that 82 game, 85, do you remember that? Manning had the first tipped it, and they threw an alley-oop to him, and you knew it was just over. It was over
like,
after
what?
that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was crazy.
We had, Kenny Taylor was one of the top athletes that come out of Wyandotte, and he was on our team, but he was, rest his soul, he was you know, he should have gone somewhere and played for a long time.
Sure.
But,
Did he not go play anywhere? Did Kenny not go play?
the streets got the best of
Streets,
him. But
okay.
it was, I mean, but Kenny was tough.
Because you ended up at Kansas, obviously, and then David Johnson ended up at Oklahoma, correct?
Yeah, David thought I was going to transfer to Oklahoma because, you know, my first game, my dad died, had a heart attack in the stands. And there was rumors that I was going to transfer because I couldn't. It was tough for me going back to the gym.
Of course.
Wow.
But I'm like, no, this is where I'm supposed to be, and I
Sure.
stayed. So, but David had already committed to Oklahoma, and he probably didn't want to keep playing with me anyway. So.
Right.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff there, Cal. Like I said, man, that's a tough. I remember reading about that story about your father passing away. That was tough.
Yeah, we had a grocery business growing up, Hars's Market, and we had 3 different stores, and he didn't have a lot of help, and he didn't like closing the stores, and so he told my mom and her friend to come on up to the game, and he would just hear about it, and with it being the first, he just figured that he would shut it down early and come on up there, so they weren't sitting together.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So he sat right in front of the bench. Mama, at that time, parents and friends would sit behind the opposing bench.
Okay.
So that's where my mother was.
Okay.
But they said I had gone up on the left side for a layup, and the guys that jumped, and I kept floating and went up under and flipped it over on the other side, and everybody got up and hooping and hollering, and they said he got up and didn't go back down, and so that was it. And I didn't know what had happened, but I could sense something had happened, you know, and they start paging my mother on the loudspeaker,
Right,
Miss Young, go to medical. I'm like, what's going on? And Coach Hill, I talked to Coach Hill on the way down to Oklahoma City over the weekend, and Coach Owens, and he's like, what are you talking about? And they knew because my mother told them, let me finish the game. Right. I was like, no, where is my father? What's going on? It's like, how do you know? I was like, they're calling my mother.
Right.
So so Coach Hill put his arms around me, and Coach Owens came and grabbed me, and they took me to the hospital. And he's like, we don't understand how you know something's going on, but they told me on the way that my mother wanted me to finish playing. And,
Wow.
That's a
Thank you for
tough story.
thank you for sharing that. That's your first game at the house.
yeah, November 27th. That's you said talk about numbers earlier.
Yeah,
I mean I don't know what it is. I wasn't very good at math.
Yeah, you know numbers days. So when you were there, and you guys got better each year, right? Like I think
Yes,
your first year wasn't great, but then you guys went to the Final Four. What was your favorite arena to go into? And you know, because now with all the realignment, you know, because KU and MU start playing football next year, which is good. And basketball, I think they got another 1 or 2 before they re-up. But where was your favorite place to go? Because back then, their coaches, what people don't understand, if they're SC, were loaded from, loaded. Johnny Orr, Coach
Johnny
Stewart.
Stewart, Hartman at K-State.
Yeah.
I mean, so K-State and Missouri, obviously, with the 2 rivals. I mean, and I was warning my cousin going up to the Missouri game because I was like, nah, I'm not going up there.
Yeah.
I said, the Antlers are different.
Yeah.
No, they are.
They used to find numbers and stuff, right? And get to your hotel room and shit and all kinds of crazy stuff.
They're different. Thompson, hey, Thompson, how's your dad?
Oh, shit.
No,
They was like
when
that?
Jeff Greer's mom was dying.
Yeah.
They drew a picture of her on her hospital bed, lips. She just passed away. I mean, they're different.
Yeah, that's
So, I mean, they're funny, but then they cross the line.
The funny calling your hotel room at 9 o'clock in the morning or just keep on repeat.
Because I do that to Kellogg, too.
That's funny, but that's crossing the line.
Yeah, but no, they found out the personal stuff. And, I mean, Kansas School of Truck Drivers, because we had hired Ed Manning.
Coach Manning.
I mean, hey, Coach, Calvin's laughing. Yeah. I mean, they were... K-State would throw live chickens at Kelly night.
Live chickens.
Live.
Yes.
Live
They'd run
chickens.
across the floor and they'd go, they'd stop the game.
Live chickens.
How they get them in the game?
Yes.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
So it was no doubt. K-State, Missouri was favorite places to go play.
To go
Oklahoma,
silence the crowd.
With Oklahoma, well, we didn't remember we split in Missouri. Oklahoma was pretty good.
Of course, Billy Tubbs, man. Billy Tubbs teams back in the day.
They took on the personality of their coach.
Sure.
And so they were tough down there.
Sure.
Once we got going. Oklahoma State was good to go play as well.
And talking about Mizzou, and you bring up Missouri, there's no way we can have Cal Thompson on the set today and not talk about the game here a couple weeks ago against the University of Missouri. Because, fellas, I mean, my brother Jamie and I mean, we so mad. We weren't even talking that day. We were so pissed off. I mean, that first half, my dad was, I mean, he called me like, who's on the floor right now? And I was like, I mean, when you see something like that, I'll go back just a little bit further, guys. Did that game, that first half, did that not remind you of one of Norm Stewart's old teams back in the day, the Detroit teams he used to have? Did it not?
A couple things. So first of all, when Kansas went back this year to the old school uniforms, the old encryption of Kansas, I loved those Mizzou uniforms because it reminded me back in the day when I was a little kid watching you guys. But I will say this, from the team I watched last year to the team that he has this year, he got a bunch of athletes. And I'm like, who are these kids? Because they were long, they were bouncy, they're
physical.
They kept taking it to us off the dribble and getting to the bucket, and they were fouls. They were like, we have this foul discrepancy. I was like, they're fouling them.
Yeah, they're fouling, they're grabbing every time.
No, but they have to. I was talking to one of my partners, Rodney, and I was like, and I'd already called the game before the Creighton game. And people were like, how are you going to pick against KU? I call it like I said, we're going to lose 2 in a row.
Right.
And we do this every year. We'll lose 1, we'll lose 2, but Coach knows what he does. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason.
Right.
And we'll put it together when we need to, but we weren't number 1. They put us number 1.
Of course.
You know, and so
there's a difference.
It's a big difference. And so, no, I want us to win every game. I'm a Jayhawk for life. Remember that.
Sure.
But I just said, I knew Creighton would be tough. And I was like, and then if we lose to Creighton, which I thought we would, I said, we'll lose back to back. And Coach, when he's made the comment the other day or the few weeks ago when he had broken the record, he's like, I'll see how y'all act when I lose 2 in a row.
Yes.
Right.
He's a Hall of Famer for a reason.
For a reason.
Yeah.
For a reason.
And it's also one of those things that, and obviously being a lifelong Hawks fan, you can always count if the Hawks are playing on Big Monday, the game's going to run over. Now they can switch it to different apps, but they're going to run over. But that Creighton game, they wouldn't switch over. It ran late. And I was like, okay, that's one thing. But then just shooting the lights out. And I don't care. And I go through the history of the kid from Northern Iowa, the little tiny dude who came down on a 3 and could have laid it in, but just stopped and drained it. I mean, from Bibby's performance in '97 in Birmingham, Alabama, I'll never forget that. But he was hitting stuff, falling in laps on the sideline. Mind you, they had a great team, and that team had a lot of guys who played in the NBA.
Yeah, you talking about the way Creighton shot the ball?
Yes, but Missouri too. They shot. I mean, they
didn't shoot a ton of threes. I thought those guys were just taking it to the rack, and we just couldn't stop. We couldn't just
when they get going on those threes, it's like it's a traditional team that shoots.
When Mark Mitchell hit that 3, I'm like, oh, it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, did you see that? Did you see that shot though, Cal? It was a line drive, bro. That thing had no arch. It had no nothing. And when that thing hit, I was like, oh, come on, man.
His dad and uncle played with me in high school.
Okay.
Mark and Eric played with me.
Okay.
So, so I was like, he can't throw an ocean from a boat. He's going to go hit a 3 on us.
He's going to bury a 3. And Cal, what do you think about, and to me, I tell people, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know a lot more about it than I do, play the game, but I think college basketball right now is as good as it's ever been. And I think I think the being able to nil and stuff is college football. It's still confusing. They're going to expand to playoffs.
But tell me why you think it's.
Because I think that there's so many athletes out there, and there's so many guys that would not have got notarized because they play at small schools for whatever reason. They were overlooked, but they come to a team and they come and they ball out, and coaches are able to put these teams together. And a lot of these coaches coach NBA now, like a Bruce Pearl coach NBA. That Broom kid, I watched him the other night. he's a man. And he started in Western Kentucky, I think I would say.
I agree with you, but I don't like the reason why they're as good as they are.
Sure.
I don't like the fact that you can transfer and do it. I mean, you got 6-year seniors and people are playing at 4 schools in 5 years.
It's like free agency, isn't it? NBA free agency.
Yeah. And
it is.
I mean, it's so they're creating and building their power teams. and the athletes are better now than ever before. But I don't like the movement.
Sure.
But like I said, I understand that times are different. I'm in education now, and I tell them every time that to anyone that listen, education is not education to me.
Sure.
What I grew up in.
Sure.
Of course.
And, I'm right there in the middle of it. I'm in these halls every day.
Yeah.
And so I understand on the court, on the playing fields, how are you going to find Hunter $1 million for saying boy at the Heisman the other night? You see that?
Right, yes.
He got fined $1 million.
Right.
But I guess they're getting paid that.
Yeah.
Of course. So, Cal, let me ask you a question. So, when I look at coaches like Coach Krzyzewski, I look at coaches like Coach Williams, look at coaches like Jay Wright, people that we kind of grew up watching and thinking, God, these are some of the greatest coaches to ever coach. Do you think this NIL and the way things have changed has made a difference and made those guys, those old school coaches, be like, this is what I signed up for. This is what I want to do.
No doubt. I hear them all saying that. And Gino with UConn with the women, it's a matter of time for him to take off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's talking publicly and saying different things and voicing. It's only a matter of time because they have no control. Now you got players making just as much or more than some of these coaches.
Yeah. And Coach Saban's been pretty vocal about it since he's been on the other side of the thing about how it's no longer recruiting. And he's like, my wife said that. It's like, it's about immediately about what checks are being handed over. And it's no longer getting to know recruiting and recruiting for the kid you are, the family you are, and what you could provide from in that aspect. It's just about dollars, you know.
I'm interested to see what Belichick's going to do because he don't have the Coach Prime personality.
No, he does.
But I mean, he can win. So
there's all those memes. He's got that young girlfriend that said he's going to do great at the college level. I'm like, come on. I saw a meme and I'm like, the internet's undefeated.
Why you got to go there?
The internet's undefeated. They had a picture of back to school and Thornton Mellon in the hot tub with all those college girls. I said his first week at campus in Chapel Hill.
Man. Why you got to go there like that, bro? Why you got to do that?
No, I was just laughing. But no, that'll be interesting to see how he did. But Deion was pumped he's coming to college level.
So let's talk about the number one recruit that just came out here the other day. Kid came out. He was choosing between KU, Carolina. I mean, there's 4 schools, but ends up going to BYU because they gave him a $7 million NIL deal. Now, to me, that when we say you talk about right now, you think this is the best college basketball's ever been, and this is why I think it's not, because to me, this kid's going to get a $7 million at BYU. He's not going to have a squad that's going to be in the Final Four, make a run to the Final Four. Does that even matter anymore?
But I think some kids will fall. I think some kids will follow him there. And I think that, for me personally, I think that, right now, I think that championships and stuff don't mean as much to them. And that's why I always say Coach Cal is the best guy. If you want to go to the NBA and showcase your skill set, Cal's the guy that gets you. Like, he's a miniature. He doesn't care about championships. If he wins one, great, but it's not his priority. His priority is to get kids ready to go to the NBA and play in an NBA style locker room, NBA style, like everything. It's a miniature NBA. I want
to hear Cal's take on it because Cal, my brother and I, listen. We love our sports. We love our stuff, right? One of the things that we always come to a lot of arguing about is Coach Cal, how he feels about Coach Cal, and how I feel about Coach Cal. I want your take on Coach Calipari.
No, I love Coach. People forget that he was my coach.
Yes. Right, he
was at KU. He started off at KU.
Yeah, right.
The same time with Coach Self, right?
Right, Coach Self. Yeah.
No. Coach came in my senior year.
Okay.
Coach Cal was there my freshman year.
Oh my God, this is awesome! Yeah,
Coach Cal was there early on. So we was on the back of the bus talking about Coach Brown, laughing. Because Coach Cal is only 3 or 4 years older than us.
Right.
So Coach Cal, so we go way back like LeBron's hairline. So no, I love Coach. And
he's good people, Rob. He just seems like a guy. I would love to have a drink with Cal.
I like that guy from BYU. He gonna go pro. He gonna be like Wayman Tisdale, take a pay cut when he go pro.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Cal. Listen, we're gonna take a little break, then we're gonna come right back. We're gonna finish up some more with you, and then we're gonna bring Greg Gurley on and cut it up with Greg.
Good deal.
All right, thanks, Cal. 3, 2. Here at Love You Bro Podcast, we'd like to give a special thanks and a special shout out to our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we're not able to do what we want to do, and that's be able to come on every week and talk about sports, drink a few beers, have some great guests on, some great co-hosts. So I want to give a shout out and a thanks to our sponsors, and our main sponsor that is sponsoring us this year is Proactive Solutions. So we'd like to thank Proactive Solutions. Proactive Solutions has been delivering infrastructure solutions and IT design and consultation services to clients ranging from startups, Fortune 500 companies for more than 27 years. They're proud to be a Kansas City locally owned and a top woman-owned business, offering custom solutions and personalized support. You can trust Proactive Solutions with all your technology needs. If your company needs IT solutions, reach out to Proactive Solutions at www.proactivesolutions.com. So shout out to Natalie and Dean Thede. Thank you guys for allowing us to be able to do this every week. We're super excited about that. I want to give a special shout out to Specialized Printing. My bonus son, Tommy O'Donnell, does awesome work over there. They do t-shirts, they do koozies, they do hats. And one of the big things is, like, some of our friends and family that we've been seeing around have been asking us about when's the merch dropping. So merch is coming, soon. Please follow us on our podcast. We're going to be dropping some trucker hats, all different colors, for our college kids. I know we're going to come out with some K-State hats, some Mizzou hats, and some, of course, our Kansas Jayhawk hats. So we'll have some really cool Love You Brew, Love You Brew. We do love the brew, don't we? Love You Bro merchandise. So Tommy will be doing all that. Check out Specialized Printing and everything he does over there. Another shout out goes to Lula Southern Cookhouse, Brittany and Bradley Gilmore. Thank you guys for allowing us to shoot in this super cool space. Everybody who's come on and shot an episode with us up here really loves the space. It's a great event space. Stay tuned, because we are getting married here coming up soon. My lovely fiance over there and myself, and you never know if we might just throw some pop-up party here, maybe, babe, here in the event space, maybe. Okay, all right. We're not going to talk about that. So Lula, thank you. Brittany and Bradley Gilmore, thank you guys for allowing us to do this up here. Our two sponsors for tonight's episode, and bringing on a special friend of ours, Tom Bucati, the Wolf of Waldo. A special shout out goes to Bobby Baker's Lounge. Bobby Baker's Lounge was started in 1993 by Bobby Baker, good friend of ours. It was started off by Bobby Baker himself with a long history of family in the business. His father, John Baker, helped him find his path as a bar owner. In 2013, his daughter, Becky, purchased from him as he retired into the Golden Sunset. The 900 square foot dive bar has become a staple in Waldo since the day it opened. Says right here, Bobby Baker's is huge supporters of all firefighters and police officers. So Bobby Baker's wants to give a big shout out to all firefighters and police officers and say thank you. We appreciate everything you guys do day in and day out to keep us safe in the community. Becky, thank you so much for being a sponsor. Again, without our sponsors, we don't get to do what we want to do the most, and that's bring Love You Bro podcast to you. Our other great sponsor today is our good friend, Brian Shorgle, one of Tom Bucati's best friends. Shout out to Brian. You've always been great and by our side, Jamie and I, to, support whenever we asked, whenever we needed. So O'Neill's, it's a neighborhood restaurant and bar located at 9417 Mission Road. O'Neill's was incorporated in 1999. And has been serving up comfort food classics like Irish pot roast, in-house breaded fish and chips, homemade soups, and many other classics that make O'Neill's a local favorite. I know Shorgle's throwing some great parties over there. I know Tom frequents it. Jessica and I go there. Back in the day, I know we used to take my mom and dad over there for steak night over there. Starting in October, O'Neill's will be kicking off its 25-year anniversary celebration with special promotions and events that will last through March. They can be found on the internet at kconeils.com. So for more details, go there. And as Brian always says, go Chiefs, go Royals, go Tigers, go Hawks, go K-State Wildcats. So Brian Shorgle, O'Neill's, thank you so much for being a sponsor tonight. We really appreciate it. Becky, thank you so much for the sponsorship from Bobby Baker's. You guys get out to O'Neill's, get out to Bobby Baker's. Without places like this, you guys, we can't do what we do. So again, thank you for following us on Love You Bro podcast, and please tune in and follow us on all of our social media outlets. So thank you so much to our sponsors for helping us bring it to you every week. Welcome back to Love You Bro podcast, where tonight we got special guest Calvin Thompson on. But Jamie, we get to bring a lifelong friend of ours on and a lifelong Jayhawk great, Greg Gurley, man. Thanks for coming to the set tonight.
Yeah, how about that? Grow up 5 minutes from you guys, known you my whole life, and geez, look at us now.
What's up, Greg? It's good to see you. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Yeah, it's been a while. You guys are looking good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You look thin, man. What are you doing? Are you on like protein shakes? Or?
I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
No, I think it is. You are.
It might be. Usually the camera adds 50 pounds. I don't really think I'm skinnier. I don't know. Maybe it's this. Maybe I have one of those fancy cameras like a skinny mirror.
I love that. Hey, Greg, before we go into all of our stories and stuff and bringing you on, it's like I said, we're very blessed to have you and Cal on tonight because we're lifelong Jayhawkers and want to talk about that. But I had a conversation with Chris Ensley the other day. And Chris Ensley's a friend of ours that we went, that we grew up with. That was Greg's older brother, Dan, that he played with. And I told Enz, I said, you know what? I would give anything right now to sit around a table with Jim Gurley and Smokey Ensley and have a drink and talk about some of those old days.
Oh, those guys were the best. Yeah. Smokey was unreal. He was just a unique individual, always fun to be around. And then my dad, of course, everybody knew my dad. And so, yeah, that would be a very fun evening with a bottle of bourbon or something, just telling stories.
Lot of respect for your family, Greg, and for your dad. Always loved playing against him. And, he was that guy that even when we were younger and you'd play against him, I always loved it because afterwards, he'd always pull you to the side and talk to you and just all the conversations I remember. And like I said, loved your dad dearly, man. So that was always good.
Well, you hear it all the time, and broadcasters talk about players and how some of the really good ones were sons of coaches.
Yes.
And I was that case. I wouldn't call myself really good, but I think that throughout growing up around a coach definitely is an advantage as you go in to play big time college athletics and even pro.
Absolutely. Guys, let's talk a little bit. Cal, Greg, let's talk a little bit about right now where this Jayhawks team is right now, like where you guys kind of see the team, where you see it going. I know it was a tough week last week with Creighton and Mizzou. We talked a little bit about it earlier, but kind of where do you guys see the team, Greg? Where do you see the team right now?
It was a kind of a soul-searching week, after losing to Creighton and Missouri. I think coming out of that stretch 8-2, the first 10 games, I don't think really surprises anybody. I think it surprised us of who we lost to. Beating Carolina, beating Duke, beating Michigan State. And then, Creighton's been a great program for a long time. They were on their game. I mean, they made shots. We didn't guard. We turned it over. That was kind of the key in both of those games. It wasn't really talent. It was taking care of the basketball more than anything and defending. And those are, as Calvin knows, those are toughness things. Those are mental focus things. And that week, it just kind of lost. It was kind of lost on us. But you go back to our ability to concentrate for 40 minutes against Duke. KJ dominated Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg will be the number 1 pick in the draft next year. He may not have had the numbers that everybody expected him to have in that game, mainly because KJ bullied him.
Right.
And took him out of his games. Right. He still had, 15 or whatever he had.
Yeah, I think 15.
That's an extremely talented team.
Yes.
That could easily make a Final Four and win a national title.
Right.
And we played for 40 minutes with the kind of focus that it takes to be a top 5 team in the country. And then we just kind of forgot what we did the week prior when we got on the road. And, Calvin and I both know that when you're on the road, you lose that comfort level. But the really, really good teams embrace it. Right. The really, really good teams treat it like, hey, we're a man on an island. Everybody's telling us, the 18,000 people are against us. There's about 50 that are for you, and you kind of rise to the occasion. And we just didn't do it.
Right. Sure.
And I thought after we lost, I go, okay, we're going to go to Missouri and just put a hurting on them.
I did too.
And then from the jump, we didn't.
Yeah.
And give a lot of credit to Missouri. I hate saying it, but they took us out of our game. They provided a lot of pressure. They're long, athletic, and we just kind of folded.
Right.
We showed a lot of fight. But but you can't get down 24 on the road where everybody's screaming. I can't even say. I don't know. Maybe I can. Maybe I can.
Calvin was sharing some pretty amazing things that Antlers used to be up to back in the day.
I'm too much of a gentleman to speak to that.
Greg,
but you can imagine what they were saying. And hey, it's a rivalry that happens. I'm not saying it was bad. Of
course,
I actually kind of enjoy it, even as a broadcaster walking.
You definitely enjoy it, Greg.
So Greg, you're in the building there in Columbia when that ball tipped off. Did our guys? Because this looked like this is what it felt like to me. I really felt like they looked a little bit like Norm Stewart's old teams. Some of those guys from Detroit. They were guys that were long. They were quick to the ball. They were physical. Did our guys look a little intimidated at all when they started on the floor at the beginning, or because we didn't take the ball at all?
I wouldn't say intimidated, because I remember 2 years ago, DeJuan Harris had one of the great quotes of all time. After the game, they said, "Hey, were you intimidated at all by the crowd?" And he goes, "Hey, I just won a national championship 6 months ago.
Yeah,
this is nothing. The pressure." And so that's kind of what I expected. I don't think we were intimidated, but again, give Missouri credit. They took it to us. We knew going into that game that they draw a lot of fouls. They get to the free throw line a lot. They're in the top 5 in the country as far as free throws. And that game, free throws was a big part of it. And that's by no means an indictment on the refs. They called it like they saw it.
Right.
Missouri was the aggressive team getting to the basket. We were fouling.
Sure.
We settled for threes or we turned it over. And that's not a recipe for success.
Sure.
And so
it
was one of those things that I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if Bill knows. I mean, they had a soul searching week last week as far as film and practice, and came out and took care of a good NC State team, the Final Four team from last year. So I think we're back on track, but I don't think we played great at times in the NC State game, but not over the course of 40 minutes. That's asking a lot to have that kind of intensity for 40 minutes. You beat a good team by 15,
right,
and then you're still kind of wanting more.
Sure.
And I think it's going to take a while until we get that more.
Yeah, Greg. So go back to the Duke game, and when I was watching the Duke game, it had all the feelings of a Final Four game. The level of play that it was at, it was very intense. There was a lot going back and forth. You saw the skill set from both teams, and obviously you and Cal both have seen some really, really great KU teams through your guys' tenure. Fans and within the program. And early on, I was like, this is one of the most talented teams I've seen personally, with depth and interchangeable parts. And I was saying there's probably 5 or 6 guys that on any night can go get 20 in a night. And so after they had those contests with Duke and Michigan State and North Carolina, who are all high-level teams, well-coached, is it hard for coach to get them to stay on that level of, concentration throughout the work week, because they're like, we're really, really good. Cause when you're really, really good, when you're 18, you're really, really good and have a good squad. Or is it just something that they lost focus and they come back? Or is it just, are they just kind of, reading the clippings, if you will?
I thought that we had figured all that out after last year. It was a numbers thing last year. When Bill looked down the bench, there wasn't much to look at. We didn't have options.
Sure.
So in April and May, late March and April and May last year, he went out and found all the pieces that were missing and times that by 2, let's say. We got 11 guys that can play.
Yeah.
So I guess in response to what you just said, I thought we had that figured out. And at times we've looked like that team. But then at other times, when I think that when we go down the end of the bench and we okay, your turn.
Sure.
And then, this sounds very, very negative. Everything I've been on here for 10 minutes and I've been somewhat negative.
No.
We shouldn't be this negative because we're 8-2. We're in the top 10. We're one of the top 4 teams in the country.
Easily.
Now, at this point right now, yes, we've had a couple losses and we've had some time to try to figure it out. But the other, million-pound elephant in the room, or whatever you want to call it, is it's hard to get all these parts to be cohesive and play with the kind of chemistry that you need. Hey, and not to mention, Calvin knows more than anybody, as a guy that played at the same place for 4 years, if you went to 3 different programs, Calvin, and you had to learn a new coach's mentality, the way he yells at you, the way he compliments you, what he expects of you. Rylan, Zeke, AJ, Shaquille, all these guys have bounced around.
Sure.
Bill isn't really unique to other guys, but he's different. All coaches are different. And so getting all of them to be on the same page and then become a cohesive unit with KJ, Hunter, and DeJuan is hard. Now, that's not saying this isn't just a Kansas problem. This is everybody.
Sure.
Everybody on average loses about 7 guys a year. Missouri lost a lot and they rebuilt and they've, they're more comfortable at home, but so it takes a while. I think we take for granted that guys should just automatically figure it out.
Sure.
We expect freshmen to automatically figure it out. When Calvin and I were playing, Calvin didn't have to wait his turn because he was really good, a lot better player than me. But a guy like me had to wait my turn, and quite honestly, I'm probably still waiting. But that doesn't really happen anymore. It's a rarity to have DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams. DeJuan's a 6-year player for us. KJ's a 4-year player for us. That's it.
Sure.
We don't have a lot of those. And a lot of places don't have a lot of those. It just doesn't happen anymore. So you got to figure out how to make nice with others, how to play with others. And it's sometimes difficult. And that also is, hey, when things are tough, who are you going to rely on? I don't know if we know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably DeJuan, it's KJ, it's probably Hunter. But is it the new guys?
Yeah. I think that's what happened at the Missouri game. They just were tougher than us. And I saw a couple times, and I'm thinking that the game plan was to just go in there and waste fouls on Hunter. And they would bump him and no foul call, bump him and no foul call. They were just tougher. And they take you out of their game. And then the bench, the role players see that as well. And it's tough to just bounce back. Missouri, like Craig said, it's tough to admit, but they're better than they were last year.
Yeah.
But
that's obvious. Yeah.
I keep telling people that.
Well, to get my little dig in, they had nowhere to go but up. They were.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's why I say that their next Final Four would be their first. So, I mean, they're still Missouri, but they're better than what they were.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. What teams are doing, and until we show that we can beat it, started at Creighton. It packed in the paint and didn't allow us to throw it over the top to Hunt. And that forced KJ and DeJuan to shoot. Right. And KJ and DeJuan are great at their role, but DeJuan shooting 22 times in a game is too much.
Right.
But give Greg McDermott and Creighton credit. They laid out a plan that worked. We missed a ton of 5-footers.
Bunnies.
I was just a ton of bunnies against Creighton, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
We missed a ton of bunnies against Creighton too, as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was unreal. And it's basketball gods getting back to you, whatever. Balls that were rimming in against Duke and NC State, North Carolina and Michigan State were going in. They didn't go in Omaha.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you got to figure out how you're going to figure it out. And we just didn't. And, we were, all non-Kansas fans hate hearing this, but it's true. The 3 of you guys right there understand this. We get everybody's best shot.
100%.
100.
And we got Creighton, like 2 days after we lost to Creighton, Pop Isaacs, who had 27, is out for the year. Like, there's nothing against him. It's just he was probably hurt, but he wanted to play against Kansas. He was great. I mean, if that would have happened 2 days earlier, we would be having a much different conversation.
Sure.
But
Right.
hands, ifs, and buts, candies and nuts, we get all that stuff. But it's true. And, we're fine. This isn't doom and gloom.
Right.
We're going to play Brown on Sunday, and then we get West Virginia on New Year's Eve, and we're going to go into the new year, hopefully 10-2.
Sure.
Right.
Again, the 2 losses are probably different than we thought, but I don't think anybody thought we'd be 12-0.
Right.
But now we got a chance. But one thing we do have to do is win on the road.
Yeah.
And we haven't won on the road over the last 12 months. When you count last year, it started all at Central Florida. We had a 16-point lead and lost on the road, and we kind of that was kind of a head scratcher.
Yeah.
And then it just snowballed on us.
Right.
And who do we play? First game on the road of the Big 12? Central Florida,
Central
in
Florida.
Orlando.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, Greg, one thing, let's go back to like how you're talking about coach and how difficult that is to get find people's roles and how, put all these kids together that have been together for 3 months, 6 months, or whatever it may be. But I will say this, of like teams past that there's been some kids that might not get off the bench that were 4-star, 5-star recruits, and their body language is really negative. These kids really seem to like each other, like playing with each other. And I don't see any slumpings of shoulders of kids that averaged 16 a game in the Big Ten last year, or they were playing in the Final Four. If they're not playing well, they're not playing well, but they're equally they're involved in the game. They're excited in the game. And there's no like slowly walking back to the bench like, man, this is bullshit. I'm not getting my minutes. So is that something you've noticed, or like?
I would agree with you, because Bill is amazing at teaching everyone that the pie is big enough for everybody to have a slice. He's great at making sure guys understand their roles. Now, come March when the season's over, hopefully April when the season's over, and we won a national title, will those guys think the same? I don't know.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like 20 years ago, yeah, you would have been like, well, he'll be back next year.
Right.
That's not a foregone conclusion anymore. You
Sure.
can go to 4 schools in 4 years, and you can do what you want.
Sure.
Now, once you're in season, yeah, there's not going to be it. I mean, you're at Kansas. You're lucky to be here. Now, again, come April, that might change, and their attitudes might change. You got influences from all over the place. You got agents and families and your boys from back home. You're better than that guy. You're better than that guy.
Right.
It's going to happen. It happens, and it happens even more nowadays because you throw money into it, which is the great divider and the great equalizer all at the same time. I mean, it's crazy. So
Right.
we're in a new era of college basketball, college athletics in general, and it's good right now, but there's not a lot of loyalty.
No,
Greg,
That's right.
for me right now on this team, when I look at them, I want to find that. And I know it's early in the year, but I'm wanting Kansas to find that alpha. Who's going to be that alpha dog come Big 12 time when we're on the road? Is there that Jalen Wilson? Is there that Christian Braun? Because I felt like back in the day when we had Christian, we had Jalen on the road. We got punched in the mouth. I just felt like Christian was going to make a play or Jalen was going to make a play. And I think on this team we have one of those guys. I just want to know which one it's going to be that kind of steps forward.
I think we
to
have
take that
guys
role.
that could step up every night. I mean, someone could be that guy. I love Dickey's confidence. I love the confidence he plays with. And there's not, I mean, that big shot he had against Duke that was massive. And there's not a lot of kids that in that role step in and just bury it from the top of the key like that.
And the other thing you got to think about is the 2 national championships for Kansas. It's kind of hard to name the leading scorer on both those teams because there was a lot of guys.
Right.
Like in 2008, it was Brandon Rush. It was Darrell Arthur. It was all these guys put together.
Right.
2022, it was CB, Jalen, Ochai, on down the line.
Right.
There were multiple guys. I think this team has that ability too. I don't know who's going to lead this team in scoring. It's probably going to be Hunter.
Right.
But let's say that, I mean, Rylan, Zeke, AJ, Dewan, all these guys can have their nights. And I think that's what coaches want, especially with old guys. Like very rarely, I mean, again, he said the statement after he won in 22. It's really hard to get old and stay old. And that's what we did. And it was a frustrating loss the year before. I say this every time I'm on one of these deals. We got killed by USC in the 21 NCAA tournament.
Yes.
By like 30-something. But all those guys came back. They didn't all just transfer. They could have.
Right.
They all came back after Bill said, hey, we need to get more athletic, bigger, stronger, faster, better dudes, whatever. They all came back, and they were better, and they won a national title. So last year, we got beat pretty bad by Gonzaga. KJ, Hunt, Dewan came back. New pieces come in. It's just going to take time.
Of course.
I hate to say it, and there's no rest. I'd love to have some time more than we got, but the Big 12's amazing.
Yeah.
SEC right now might be the best conference in the country right now.
Right.
I mean, that's usually when you figure out who the best is in the non-con, you
Right.
beat everybody up in conference. But Big 12 and the SEC are the two best conferences by a long shot.
Absolutely. Kyle, what do you, I mean, this is a question obviously for Greg, obviously for you, but what do you guys feel like is the biggest, change as far as, and I know it's the NIL and it's the transfers and all this type of stuff and getting the older guys, but what is the hardest part right now for Coach Self with all the NIL stuff, with all the, interchangeable pieces? What's the toughest part that you see for Coach Self? And then Greg, I want you to answer this after Pony does.
I mean, we touched on it a little bit before Greg joined us. It's important for the players to buy into Coach as opposed to Coach trying to have 15 different personalities. They got to trust him. I tell you, he's a Hall of Famer for a reason. And they have to buy in. I told you, I don't like the same thing that we love about the game today. I don't like about it because you got guys that's been the 5-6 year seniors and been to 4 different schools. And it's tough for a coach to try to mix and mingle and do everything that he's used to. They have to buy in. They have to listen to the veteran players who's been there and who's paid their dues. They have to put their egos aside. Like I said, who's going to be there at the end? Who's coming back? Wait your turn. It's enough for everybody. Just be ready when your number's called.
Right.
And so I think the important thing for Coach, and he does a great job of, is just being himself.
Right. Greg, what do you feel like the toughest for Coach Self is right now?
The hard part is there's many hard parts, and the biggest one is finding the money. Like that's my job, along with others, is to find the money because there's kind of a cap, but it's really not. I mean, we're competing against. We used to compete against who? Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, Indiana, UCLA,
right.
The Blue Bloods, right? That was because of reputation, tradition, facilities. Now you're competing with anybody that has money.
BYU, $7 million to that kid that's going there, the number one kid to BYU for $7 million.
The Mormons have it rolling. You got Houston, you got Memphis, you got schools in metropolitan areas that have, you look at Dallas, SMU. You got schools that have extremely wealthy people. I'm shocked that the Harvard Billionaire Boys Club hadn't just said, you know what? Let's all throw in. Let's get 10 guys together, throw in 20 million, and say, let's get to the Final Four.
That's probably coming down the pipeline.
I'm sure that's some of Clark Hunt's money down there at SMU, isn't it? Putting that football team together.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, some of the wealthiest people in the country went to SMU. And so the other thing that I think is difficult is you never know. Like, you win the national title April 3rd, and then we know we're going to have about 8 guys gone. So then you got to go out the next day because time is not on your side.
Right.
You're already late to the game. You got to fly a kid in. First of all, you got to find the kid that is in the transfer portal. Okay, we like him. Let's bring him to Lawrence. You meet him and his family if you can get him there. Hope that they're good people. Seem normal. Everyone's cool on their recruiting trip, right? Everyone that came in on a recruiting trip, they're like, all right, he's cool. Yeah, it's great. Parents were nice, whatever. But you don't really know. You meet them for 12 hours, and then they go home, and you sit down with your coaches, and you got to say, okay, I got to offer Jimmy, $800,000, and I don't want to deal with his mom and dad, or I don't want to do like. There's so many factors, and you have a day or 2 days or 3 days because somebody else could offer him $1.5 million and he's gone. Then you got to start over again, and then, hey, once you get that kid, the other kid that you already had that was in that position, it's like, all right, you just got the best player from Mississippi State, and I thought I was going to be the starter next year, and then maybe you lose that kid, so it's like a jigsaw puzzle with dominoes.
Yeah,
like
that's a tough. Yeah,
it's so random, and you got to be ready to go, and you got to make a quick decision. And so, I think that's a very difficult part of it.
That was well said. That was well said.
So, Greg, tell us I want to know. So obviously we've known you for a long time, man. Loved watching you play at South. Loved watching you. Well, not South, not really, because we used to compete against you. But we loved watching you.
Yeah, we used to kill East. East was like, we looked at East like, oh, there's 2 wins. There's 2 wins. We'll probably lose to them in swimming, tennis, and golf.
He sounds like Coach Springs now.
That's my guy.
But Greg, at the University of Kansas, man, we watched you play there. What was we talked to Cal earlier, and Cal kind of told us his. What was your favorite place to go on the road and beat someone? Because you knew you were going to walk in the gym. Was it MU? Was it, or what was your favorite place to go play at?
I was talking to some of the Missouri Mike Kelly and Chris Trevino, and I was like, I kind of miss Hearns. Missouri Arena's pretty nice, but Hearns was just a big old concrete block, and it was loud, and Norm yelled at you, and you had old guys sitting courtside yelling things about your mom and throwing. I mean, it was brutal.
Cal was saying how horrible the Antlers were, and they would say shit about like stuff that should be off the record.
Oh.
Like,
well, they kind of got knocked down a few notches. They were back, but you could. The other day, I didn't really notice them. It was no big deal. I always found them to be funny because I like that kind of shit. Yeah, I like going out there early. I love, I played with guys that were easy to make fun of, including myself. But Greg Ostertag was kind of like the Hunter Dickinson. Like, he was easy to make fun of. Just like Hunter, who brings a lot of it on himself.
Right.
But it was like Missouri. Then I'll tell you the other place, and I don't know what Cal will say, but I thought Oklahoma State was really, really difficult to play at. It seated 6,000 people, and it was louder than the Hearns Center that probably seated twice that, because it had like 20 rows, and that damn redneck cowboy would shoot his grill off. So it was – I enjoyed everybody. You ask any player, you take so much satisfaction into going into somebody's house that nobody – well, they expected us to win a lot, but it was always good to go in and win, kind of wave goodbye, talk a little shit.
Right.
So I go Oklahoma State and Hearns Center.
So Oklahoma State only holds 6,000 people in Stillwater?
And they were right there on the floor. Right there on the floor.
God,
Yeah.
6,000.
No, but now they don't. Now they, about, I don't know, 20 years ago, they basically cut the roof off, built a bubble over it, and put in an upper level without interrupting. Actually pretty impressive engineering feat, or however they did it. Now it seats like 13,000, and it's just not the same.
Right.
Like, when we go there, we usually sell everywhere out. It's still not a total sellout. It's not that great anymore. But when that ceiling was low and there was only 20 rows to it, it was a hard place to play. How was it when you were playing, Cal?
It was tough. Coach didn't do much pregame talk. He would match up fights with the lineups.
Wow.
Yeah, because Kellogg was always in a fight down there.
That's Stillwater.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
wow.
was tough to play.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I tell Matt Clark's a good friend of mine, and he's in OKC with me as well. And I said, Matt, we're still in therapy, but I understand how we could lose our freshman year. Matt's 70, I'm 60. And he was a senior when I was a freshman. So, of course, he and Leroy Combs, they're 10 years older than us, going to beat us. And that was before the transfer portal.
Right.
So I told him third grade was hard on him.
Hey, Greg, back to your South days real quick. I want to know, how far was that? I know Coach Self says it gets further and further, but your game-winning state championship shot, how far back was it? Half court?
Oh, I mean, 30 feet maybe. I mean, it was, as you hear the stories, it was, 70 feet.
Yeah,
It was
that's all my South friends were like, oh, dude, it was 3-4.
No, it was 8-10 feet behind the 3-point line, but the clock was running. I didn't have much of a choice. We got it and made it. And, I think about every time on the reverse of it, like against Missouri and Creighton when they rushed the court. That was back when our fans rushed the court and they didn't award us the state championship because they said our fans were unruly and they rushed the court. So we didn't get presented with medals or a trophy or anything. They just said, all right, go to the locker room and we're going to have a special meeting of that stupid organization called the Kansas. Well, it's the most archaic. They're horrible. I don't know how they are now, but the State Athletic Association was terrible. They made a horrible decision, ruined memories for a lot of kids that deserved it, and it was just dumb.
Right.
I mean, it's like the NCAA vacating wins. It's like they punished the players because of what they thought the fans did, which was it was school spirit is ridiculous. And so I'm obviously not a big fan of the Kansas State High School Athletic Association. So if they have a Hall of Fame or anything, I ain't getting in it.
Hey, Greg, we need to take a break for a minute. Can you come back on here in a few minutes? Can we give you?
For sure.
I'm going to send you a text here in a few minutes. We're going to take a break for a minute. I'm going to text you here in a few minutes.
Thank you, brother.
Go.
All right, thanks, Greg. Boom. Welcome back to Love You Bro podcast, where I got special guest on tonight, man. One of my man, Calvin Thompson, my guy, Greg Gurley. I can't thank both you guys enough for being on our set tonight. So thank you. And again, there's some more things I want to get into and talk about. Greg, let's talk a little bit about back when you came to Kansas and you were recruited, because Calvin told us a really cool recruiting story when Coach Owens recruited him. Calvin, you tell me. I want to hear it again. What Coach Owens told you that freshman year when he came to your house.
Well, Greg heard it again in July at the Round Ball Classic, or June, whenever it was. He came as a ninth grader. I didn't play. I had a cast on my leg, but I was working out at Eisenhower Junior High and dunking and shooting with a cast on my leg. And Roy Edwards' daughter, Barbara Edwards, was a teacher at Eisenhower, and who helped coach with recruiting. And so she said, you need to get in here as a kid in here shooting jumpers, deep jumpers, and dunking with a cast on his leg. And that's how I got recruited. And Coach Owens and JoJo White came to my house in '79, and he told my parents, he said, we don't want Calvin for 4 years. We want Calvin for life. We want him to be a Jayhawk for life. And that's how with my corny self, that's how I proposed to my wife at the Round Ball Classic. I told her I didn't want her for 4 years. I wanted her for life.
That's what makes Kansas different, right?
That's what makes Kansas different. Nothing like Jayhawk Nation.
Greg, tell us.
And Calvin would have, they found you in 8th grade, but he wouldn't have been hard to find. That dude, I don't, there wasn't as much TV or obviously internet or anything, but Calvin Thompson is legendary player.
Wow,
and I don't think we talk about him enough. You think about Calvin and Ron Kellogg, and we talk about shooters nowadays, or we talk about guys that, the John Sunvolds of the world, the Calvin Thompsons and the Ron Kellogg's that didn't have the three-point line.
Right.
And how much different their careers, at least their legacy would have been if they had it. Because if I'm correct, I think the three-point line came in '87.
No, the year after we left.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was almost like the NCAA was just kind of fucking with you. Say, once Calvin leaves, we're gonna put the three-point line in. Him and Ron Kellogg, screw them. Must have been run by a Missouri guy.
Hey, Kellogg, to this day, he hates me. I'm like, Ronnie, why? He's like, you scored more points than me. I said, Ronnie, it was a team game.
Right.
But he knows how many points he would have had if we'd had a three-point line.
I kept thinking I saw that somewhere in a KU program or something that they showed one time, Ron Kellogg's shooting chart or whatever, how many more points he would have had there been a three-point line.
He knows. he didn't know many plays. He just found Greg Dryland and ran behind him and broke every play. But the deal, you talk about the numbers deal with me.
Right.
It happened with Kellogg. We were going back to Lincoln to play, and he and Cedric was from Omaha.
Right.
It was 44 degrees on a Saturday. He said, I'm gonna have a good game. 44 degrees. His number was 44. So we all got together and we said, let's pass Ronnie the ball every time. So that's how he got the nickname Mr. Saturday.
Okay.
So every Saturday we would give him the ball, let him score, and that's how he's the one that got me hooked on the numbers deal.
Wow, love it. Greg, let's go to your recruiting, man. Tell me when you were at South. Did you always know when you were young Kansas is where you wanted to play? Is that where you always wanted to play the whole time?
No, I wasn't. Like growing up, I was a North Carolina fan. A typical kid.
Right.
In the '80s, you watch the teams that are good, and in the early to mid '80s, Carolina was always good. I loved obviously Michael Jordan, James Worthy. You know, I used to love J.R. Reed for some reason. J.R. Reed was a guy I loved. I don't know why, but I liked his haircut or whatever it was, like their uniforms. And so both my parents went to Central Missouri State. So we didn't grow up around Kansas. I mean, we grew up in the state of Kansas.
Right.
The first Kansas basketball game I ever went to was when I was being recruited. You know, we just didn't do that. It wasn't that, you know, we didn't have the ability to. We just, you know, you played multiple sports.
Right.
We didn't really go to games. And like I talk to my kids all the time how spoiled they are and that they've been able to see 2 national titles, multiple Final Fours, fly on the team plane to Hawaii. Like the shit that my kids have been able to do, which I'm grateful for because of my job and their ability to. But that wasn't my childhood. And again, I'm very happy that they're able to do it. But so I didn't know who Roy Williams was. Like when he got the job, no one knew who Roy was. He was the second assistant at North Carolina.
Right.
So in '88, we won the national title. '89, you're on probation.
Right.
And you have a guy that no one's ever heard of as the coach. You're kind of like, all right. And then in his 3rd year, he plays for a national championship and top 5 program in the country. They start recruiting me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from Leawood. It's 40 minutes away.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
So, you know, that was my first, the competition was Oklahoma State, Nebraska. I like Danny Nee. Bill Self was at Oklahoma State along with Eddie Sutton, had a home visit with them, really liked Bill at the time. He was, you know, 10 years older than me, but he was a younger coach in the grand scheme of things. So we related. I always liked him. Didn't go there. We kept in touch over the years, and then comes full circle that he's the coach at Kansas. So, but my recruiting was, you know, everyone kind of knew I was going to go to Kansas. I was a, you know, kind of guy that Roy liked, and it was a no-brainer once they offered me basically early in my junior year. I didn't commit till, you know, my senior year, but it wasn't a very well-kept secret that I was going to Kansas.
Wow. That's
That's
awesome.
funny. Talk about his kids. My daughter thinks that she thought KU was a football school. She wanted to play Alabama because they had just won with her.
Right.
You know, she just graduated. I was like, Taylor, it hadn't always been this way.
Right.
You
Right.
know, we used to win the blue and white game.
Well, the other thing we talk about with our kids a lot too is just, you know, the 3 of us being from Kansas City, and you think about the run that our kids have had when you talk about the Royals in 2015, the Chiefs 3-time Super Bowl, KU 2-time national title. I mean, if you're 21 years old, 22 years old in this town, you've seen a lot of cool shit.
Yes.
Like when we were growing up, look at the 3 of us, 85 World Series,
That was
88 national championship.
That's it. That was it.
A long, long time. Really good Chiefs teams that always kind of failed in the playoffs. And we were I'm sure we were all there.
Right.
I know I was.
Right.
For the Colts game that Jim Harbaugh broke our hearts. Lynn Elliott. I mean, we've been through a lot of hard times. And I think around the country, people kind of don't like Kansas City because we're on top right now. And 3 of us love it.
Right.
I'm having a blast.
Greg, I was just driving somewhere in our transportation company the other day, and the guy was from New York, and he was just talking about, God, I'm so tired of, you know, seeing the Chiefs and this, and this. And I go, I'm born and raised here. And I go, you don't understand. It took them 50 years to get back to a Super Bowl. I know you guys hate us right now, but I'm like, you guys, it was 50 years before they were there.
You know what we are right now to everybody else? We are the fan base that hated the Patriots when they were running.
100.
Exactly.
We hated the Patriots because they always won. We hated Tom Brady. And now we're the Patriots.
It's us.
100%. 100%. You know, I'm obviously fortunate enough that I get to be around those guys and do some work with those guys, and just seeing this team and how close they are. This season's been a little bit of a struggle, but I still have a feeling that when we get Hollywood.
Well, hold on.
13-1, and he said we're a struggle.
I just think about what you said. It's a struggle.
And they've struggled this year. 13. I know it's 13-1, and we're spoiled though. We're spoiled as Chiefs fans.
Yes.
This offense is not.
No, you're spoiled. You're spoiled for saying that.
I'm 100% spoiled.
Did you hear that, Calvin?
I'm looking at it. Right here.
Listen, guys, these guys have struggled a little bit offensively. This team, the coaching staff they have, these guys know how to win. And what I'm saying is, I know they've struggled, but I still feel like they're going to three-peat. I'm telling you.
It's just like KU. Whoever we play, we're going to get their best game. Those other coaches and players are getting up for us.
Yes.
So it's not going to be pretty every game. But we're still 13-1.
13-1
with the best.
Don't ever apologize for being 13 and freaking 1.
No, there's no apologies.
That is the greatest league, the most competitive, most parity of any of the professional sports leagues.
Right.
And they're 13-1.
I think a better way I want to put this is, I think their best football is still ahead of them. That's what I want to say. Their best football, I think, is still yet to be played. And I think they'll play it in the playoffs.
He's went from a half-empty guy to a half-full
guy.
No,
I'm telling you.
I won't
really
be in the
think
next couple games.
I really think that the best football is ahead of them. I know Hollywood Brown's coming back. We'll get Humphreys back. Omenahu's starting to play good. Like, having these guys come back, they'll be ready come playoff time.
As we lose Mahomes.
Mahomes he'll be fine. He'll be all right.
He'll be fine. He's got an ankle sprain.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
But it's high.
But you know what though? I would play Carson Wentz on Saturday though.
No,
if it was
doubt.
me, I would. I'd play Carson on Saturday.
I would as well.
I would do that.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. And Patrick won't let him. He's playing Saturday.
You're probably right.
He tried to play Sunday.
Hey, he doesn't like coming out at all, man. He hates it. Okay, well, listen, guys, we're going to get this thing wrapped up, but I wanted to tell both you guys, thank you so much for coming on. And our sponsor, who allows us to host our show here at Lula's Southern Cookhouse, is going to get a couple of gift cards mailed off to you guys to say thank you for coming on the program. Come down to Lula's and have dinner on us. I love you, bro. But Jamie and I thank you both so much from the bottom of our hearts for coming on our podcast, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Calvin, thank you.
Love it. Thanks for having us, Rock Chalk.
Hey, Rock Chalk. Greg, I'll see you soon. Take care, brother.
I'll see you on Sunday, baby.
Thanks, Cal.
All right.